a notorious Hartford project. Next. Welcome to the Stan Simpson Show, a program about Connecticut people and compelling issues. Make it a point to drop in every week. Before its rebirth, the Dutch Point housing projects in Hartford were known for its violent crimes, gang activity, and rampant drug use. A local social worker and writer, Kareem Muhammad, decided to capture the realities of this dysfunctional environment in his new book, Dutch Point. We'll talk to Muhammad about his experience in investigating abuse and neglect within families inside the capital city. Then we'll wrap things up with some sports chatter with our sports maven, Scott Gray from WTIC News Talk 1080. March Madness has arrived. Are you ready? But first, notorious Dutch Point here with Kareem Muhammad from Hartford, social worker, DCF, decided to put some of your experiences into a book, but you come from a family of social workers, I understand, right?
My entire family, I would say. It's 10 of us. I'm the middle child. I have an older brother that actually has a business, My People Clinical Services, in the city. Both of my parents currently work with him. He provides services for DCF, actually, clinical services for the Department of Children and Families. I have another older brother, Waleed Muhammad, who has a clinical services out in East Haven, Happy Family Clinical Services. A younger brother, Omar, that works in the Manchester DCF office, and his wife, my sister-in-law, that works in the Manchester office too. So
it's the family business.
It's a family business.
But within that, though, you see a lot of the dysfunction, right? You've been doing it for 10 years now. Some of the harrowing things you see, it's really a life and day look at dysfunction, at crisis, at self-destruction, at freedom. Talk about life as a social worker and some of the things you see out there.
Well, it's a very challenging job, and it's a very rewarding job at the same time. You have an array of different dimensions of abuse and neglect on a daily basis. Working as an investigator, I have cases for 45 days. So they come in for allegations of sexual abuse or physical abuse, serious physical abuse, being the children that have broken bones or burns on their bodies, and again, sexual abuse from infants all the way up to teenagers. So it's a very challenging job. It puts me in places such as going to schools or working with the local police departments in regards to investigating these reports. So it's a very rewarding job also because it gives you an opportunity to work with families, and sometimes as a worker, I'm the first person informing them of such acts of abuse because these are sometimes secrets within families that they don't want to necessarily get out, but they do eventually come out, and it is my job to safeguard the children and to provide services for them.
And one thing I found, whether you're talking to a social worker or a pastor or a doctor, people who deal with crisis and intervention, that a lot of times they deal with it 24/7, and there's no one there to counsel them to help them deal with that. Your thoughts, when you see all of this stuff, how do you sort of unwind? How do you get your balance back when day to day you're dealing with this kind of aberrant crisis, personal crisis?
I'm happy that you asked that, and that was one of the reasons for writing the book. Many times when you go into homes, the clients, I don't know if they necessarily realize that we're human too. The vicarious trauma, the effects of removing a child, that's a very difficult thing to do.
You're the bad guy, right?
I'm the bad guy, but there are many families. Many of our families realize and appreciate the work that we do, but what I wanted to try to highlight in the book was I'm not just that person that's going to come in and inform you of your child being abused or to remove your child if it's necessary. I'm also there to help work with your family. But what happens when you go home, sometimes as workers, we don't have people to talk to. We can't, these are confidential cases, so we can't discuss them necessarily in details with our, spouse or family member. And sometimes you just don't want to. It weighs on you so heavy. You never know each day what case you're going to receive. If it's going to be something that's going to put you out in the field on an emergency, or if you're going to be removed removing a child. So that can be very difficult at times.
So the book must have been purging for you from the standpoint of being able to write a fictional account of what you're seeing out there, right?
Right.
Again, at Dutch Point, there's one example, one of the chapters, a lady named Madeline, where she's pregnant. She's in the hospital, but yet ready to have a baby, but finds the need to break out of the hospital because she has to get her fix. She's a drug addict, and here she's ready to deliver, but needs to have that fix. Talk about that. That's obviously something you drew from real life stuff, right?
It's real life stuff, and just as you said, this is a work of fiction. I created these characters, but they're from my experience. You know, having a person such as Madeline in a story, having this addiction, and having an addiction, you know, it can take a part of you. It can take hold of you and make you do things that make you, not use judgment all the time. And in her case, she did leave the hospital while she was in the process of delivery, and she went to cop drugs. And from there, that character in the book, she did an amazing thing after. For the readers, I don't want to, give away too much. But, having her in the book, is that character is going to bring the peaks in the book. What she does, the act of leaving your baby, abandoning your baby in the hospital, because of the thought that DCF may remove them, abandoning the baby or leaving the hospital to go get drugs with the thought that you're not going to get caught, they're not going to find out. Sometimes our clients don't know. Sometimes they have a fear of DCF, even by not having interaction with us. It's just maybe because of a comment or conversation with a family member that maybe had contact with us.
When they get help, when you get someone like your Madeline, who's a fictitious character, when you get the right therapy and they go back, how difficult is it to go back to an environment where you say, gee, I abandoned this child or I had this pregnant baby and I put it at risk? How do folks reconcile that with themselves when they overcome the addiction and realize how bad their behavior and judgment was?
Well, one of the things is when we work with families and work with clients such as Madeline, you want to get her the most help that you can get her. Many times, these clients have never received any type of treatment. Many times. It may be their first intervention.
Why is it? Because they don't want it?
Because maybe they didn't want, or maybe they weren't ready. Everything's about being ready, even like with a disclosure of a child, such as given a sexual abuse. It's about them being ready to disclose. But when they get the services and the clients that get the help and the support from, DCF or the providers that we use, they become reunified with the child. They're always in contact with them, but it also depends on them, too.
How about the stereotypes of DCF that they become at the institution arrogant? We all know the long-term history of DCF and the perception out there of stereotypes that it's an arrogant organization more interested in taking kids away from families than in reuniting them.
Right. Well, I think that as a worker, I've been at DCF for 12 years now.
That bother you, by the way? You've heard that stereotype?
No, one of the things that when I go into households, I spend maybe the first 5 or 10 minutes on some cases defending DCF, saying that, that's not what we're all about. Maybe there are situations where some have made mistakes, but you can't paint the picture on everybody. But I accept it because I do represent the department. So, that it is kind of difficult to deal with that, but I realize it and I accept that, and I tell the client that it's okay to feel that way. But my job with you, if you had bad experience in the past, let's try to work together. That's the bottom line. As an investigator, you only have it for a short period of time, meaning 45 days, to build rapport with this family or this individual. Maybe it's a single mom or single father that has an interaction with us. You have to build that rapport and build a trust where they're going to believe that Andrew, the character, or Kareem, the real life investigator, is going to help them. So that's a challenge every day.
All right, we're going to come back with more. Again, the book is called Dutch Point. When we come back, we'll talk more with social worker and author Kareem Muhammad about his novel, chronicling the dysfunctional life in a notorious Hartford project. Don't go away. You're watching The Stan Simpson Show.